amazing guest on today's Warrior Woman podcast. Woo!
Yeah.
Miss Tonbra, how do you pronounce your last name? I'm Nigerian and I am the worst with, I can't even pronounce my own last name.
No worries. It's Nwosuagwu. The N is silent.
Nwosuagwu.
Nwosuagwu. Yeah.
Nwosuagwu. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I have here Ms. Tonbra Nwosuagwu with me.
Yeah.
She is a phenomenal, and when I say phenomenal, I do not mean that any lightly at all. I'm literally a phenomenal woman of transformation. She's a transformational coach, an author, a speaker, just a complete powerhouse, and the founder of Angel Skin Foundation. You do so much. Also a mother, also a wife. I mean, just a complete powerhouse. I want to start by just having you just quickly introduce yourself, and then we're going to get right into the juice. The juice.
Oh my gosh. I want to first of all start by saying what an honor it is to be here.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
so much for inviting me when I saw this pop up. I said, of course, I'll come, of course. So thank you so much for being you as well. I
you.
see all of the great things that you do, and I know that your heart is in it. You're such a heart-centered leader. That's what I see
Mm.
when I just experience you. And I just want to thank you for all you're doing for the women around the world. I just want to say thank you on behalf of everyone who gets to benefit from the content that you put out. I want to say a
Thank
big thank
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Same, likewise. Send the love right on back. So yeah, why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself, and we'll really get into your story. Again, I believe you're such a powerhouse and you're doing amazing things for women all across the globe. Share just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
you. Okay, so you've heard my name, Tonbra Nwosuagwu, and at heart, I am a teacher. I think the thing that connects every single thing that I do is the fact that I teach. Whether I'm
Mhm.
teaching on my podcast, I've got a podcast called Created from Other Podcasts, or I'm teaching in class and leading the women that I lead, or I'm teaching on social media, or I'm teaching, in my books. I've got a book called How to Be Unstoppable. So in my heart, it's all about empowering people. It's all about helping people see themselves through paradigms that give them personal power. That's all
Mhm.
I'm about, because I believe
Mhm.
that there's a version of you that God sees, that God has empowered, that you, if you are not walking in, you just need to step into to become it.
Mhm.
So that's all I'm about. I have two daughters, as you've said, two beautiful daughters. Married now for about 12 years, 13 years, I lost
Oh,
count.
yes. Champion. Champion.
And yeah,
Champion.
that's it really. I'm all about teaching, empowering, and I bring good vibes, essentially.
You do, you do. You definitely bring good vibes. Teacher to teacher. I'm a teacher as well. I was beautiful. I was like, teacher, yes. But you're using your gift of teaching. And for me, when did it start for you? Like, when did you know that you needed to use this gift to do more? You even have a Created for More podcast, and you realized that you were created for more. You realized that you needed to use this gift to elevate this gift of teaching. When did that begin for you?
Okay, so I have such an interesting story, and I can't answer your question without giving you a bit of background into who I am
Okay.
and my story. So I was born out of a relationship. My mom and my dad were together, and they kind of had something, and then I popped on out. Basically, when my mom told my dad that she was pregnant for me, my dad refused and said, "You've got to go and abort the baby," and then gives her
Mhm.
money to terminate the pregnancy off me. And then she runs away, and she has this whole dramatic story, bless her, of being, in a bush trying to survive, because this was back in Nigeria in the early 80s. She didn't really have the resources to care for herself, let alone a baby. So it was
Wow.
even a miracle that I made it out here, right? So I come on all out one day in September of 1982, and and my mom tells of the story about my birth, the fact that I was born and they had no clothes for me. She gave birth to me on
Mm.
the floor in somebody's house. They cut my umbilical cord with a rusty blade. They
Oh
knock on
my
a couple of
goodness.
doors, and they to get clothes to wrap me up in. So I have this whole sensational story. And she said, in the end of the day, they took me over to my grandmother's place, which is my dad's mother, to sort of say, like, look, this child has now been born. This child belongs to you. So and my grandmother was saying to her that, you know what, and my mom was saying, look, I really suffered through my pregnancy and it was really, really difficult for me. And my grandmother looked at her and said, Onyi Tonbra. My full name is Tonbra. And what Onyi Tonbra means is this is exactly as God wants it. And that was the
Hmm.
very first prophecy I received in my life. And that was on the day I was born. And I've seen my life just kind of morph into this whole big plan. And, and which hasn't always been apparent to me. I've always known that there was something, but anyways, start the journey through life. But I was this child that was, what I would call the stuck in between. My dad wasn't quite sure. My mom felt, now I've had her, you should take care of her. So I was just always this inconvenience in a
Hmm.
way. So I lived with my mom. When I was 5 years old, my mom put me in boarding school. At five
Wow.
years old,
At 5 years old.
5 years old, I was in boarding school.
Wow.
When I was 6.5 years old, she basically writes a letter, and in the letter she says, I've traveled out of the country. You've got to look after your daughter. She puts a backpack on me, puts the letter in my hand. We take a taxi. She had a friend in the taxi and says, walk this girl to that door and give them this letter. I'm out. That was it. And that was it. That was the last time I lived with my mom, and I started living with my dad from then on. So I came out of that whole experience feeling as if there was something inherently wrong with me.
Huh.
If
Wow.
if it wasn't, like, how could there not be something wrong with me? If there
Right.
wasn't, like, why would my everything that I have experienced of life feel so shaky, feel so tumultuous? There was no certainty. I just felt the only thing that was common to all of this was me.
Hmm.
The only thing that was common to it. And in all of this, what I left out of the story was my mom would wake me up when I was living with her and she would cry. I can never forget it. She would cry in the middle of the night, wake me up from sleep, and she would cry and she'll ask me questions like, what was wrong with you? Why doesn't your father's people want you? What is wrong
Wow.
with you? So I grew up with that question in my head. What is wrong with you? So the reason why this story is very, very important is because in all of that was when I realized that there was something on the inside of me. Because when
Hmm.
my mom would ask me and she would be crying, the first thing that I would want to do was comfort her. Forget the fact that, I was the one, I just, so I often say that my mom was my first coaching client.
Hmm.
Got to see what brokenness in a woman could look like. I tasted it,
Wow.
I saw it. Because that's the only thing that would allow you ask a child, what is wrong with you?
Wow.
And obviously she has her own experiences, she has all of that she will, she can speak to. But from my own perspective, I believe that was when the burden that I had, I call it a burden for brokenness. The burden I had for broken people, for broken women, the restorative gift that I have to help put people together, I believe that was where it was being tested. I was
I,
seeing this hand. Go on, go on. I see you
I
go.
have a question because this is really deep, and especially starting with from such a young age, the idea that something is wrong with you, something must be wrong with me, which that line of thought is makes complete sense. When did the shift happen? Like, was it in childhood, teenage years, adulthood, that there's actually nothing wrong with me, and made the connection of identifying your gift of like this compassion and healing and connecting that as like, no, nothing's wrong with me. Everything is right with me. And I need to use this thing that I have to transform women.
I It took a very long time. And I think even up until the pandemic,
Mm.
I was always showing up, but inauthentically,
Hmm.
doing everything, trying to fit in. But in my spirit, I still heard that voice that said that there was something wrong with me. So I would always be timid. I lacked confidence. I was, ridden with self doubt. I just felt like I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as the next person,
Hmm.
right? But what then started becoming apparent when I entered and I started my journey of self discovery in in 2020. When the pandemic happened, I was doing a regular job, but I knew, and this is just an entirely, this story is just incredible. When the pandemic happened, I had a job. So I'm a project management professional, work with lots of big multinationals, have, long career, done project program management, IT systems, HR, I've done all sorts. But within me, I've always known that I wasn't called to be there. So I will say to people, I it never felt right. I will say to my husband, like, I don't feel and the phrase I used to always use was, I feel like a square peg in a round hole.
Hmm.
I just feel not fit for this place. And on the outside, it looked crazy because I had a good job,
Yeah.
great salary,
Yeah.
everything looked well, but it just didn't feel right. But I didn't know what else to do,
Can
right?
we
I didn't know where to
deep
go.
can we like pull that apart? Like, what does that feel like inside? Yes, it feels like a square inside of a circle, but like, what does that feeling, like someone who may be experiencing that right now, what would that feel like? That I just know I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. Like, talk to me about that.
It feels like your spirit is at war every single
Huh.
day. That's how it feels. It feels like your spirit is at war. You turn up, but you're not really there. You're
Hmm.
going through the motions, and these are people that would, for some people, it will be people, it will be cases where people will say, look, you're not looking that committed, you're not doing the, you're there but you're not there. I don't know how to explain it, Nancy.
Yeah.
You're there but you are not there.
Hmm.
That's exactly that was my testimony for the longest time. I was there every time. My spirit was at war. I don't know what other phrase to use. I was there present, but I felt like, I think the best analogy I could give is, I felt like a 1,000 watt kilowatt generator that was being used to power something that was 10 kilowatts.
Oh, girl. I know that description and that feeling. Like I'm not being used at my maximum capacity. I'm actually being wasted away. I'm not being
Wasting away.
fully
That's it.
utilized.
That is it. Wasting away. That's how I felt.
Ooh.
I felt like I was wasting away. And guess what? When the pandemic happened, I was contracting at the time. I had a consultancy contract and they canceled all the contracts because everyone was scared. They didn't know what the pandemic was going to bring. They didn't want to spend money. They said cancel all contracts. Guess what I did? I
Tell me.
celebrated. I
Wow.
jumped. I was so happy. And I said, I believe that this is my time
Hmm.
to turn my life around. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know turn the life to where. I didn't know what it was going to bring. I had
I'm just
no
gonna
idea.
turn it.
I had no Instagram page, no personal development. I didn't used to read books. I didn't
Wow.
do nothing. I was on this whole path this way, and nothing. No podcast, no nothing, nothing. I just used to go to work, come back, do stuff with my girlfriends. That was just my life. That was the
You
extent.
chose to honor the feeling of I'm supposed to do more. I'm
But
not
I
going to waste
didn't
away.
really know. I couldn't articulate it as more. I just knew there was misalignment. But
Misalignment.
I didn't know. It's now that I look back on it that I can see, I can call it like, okay, I wasn't being fully utilized, but I just knew that I wasn't born for this. There is an unrest in my spirit that tells me that I'm not in the right place. but I didn't know what right was.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
when
gonna go find the right. I need to go
yeah,
find what
the
I'm supposed to
right.
be doing.
Yes. So when the pandemic hit, I was so intentional. You won't believe it. People were going to try and find new jobs, doing all this stuff. And I said, no, it's not for me. So what will you do, Tonbra? I was like, I'm going to find myself.
Hmm.
What does the process of finding yourself look like? You know what I did? I
What?
called all my girlfriends onto a Zoom call, about five, six of them. And I went step by step, tell me what you see in me. Tell me what
Hmm.
you see. And I was taking notes. Tell me what you see in me. How do you experience me? I was taking notes. Drop that Zoom call. Call my sister in law. Tell
Hmm.
me from your perspective what you see in me. Drop that call. Call another person, cousin. Tell me what you see in me. Call my husband. Tell me what you see in me.
Hmm.
Got this notepad. I still have the notepad actually. And I started reading what everybody was saying. And the truth is that, let me tell you, you cannot read the label of the box that you're in. I think it's
Hmm.
something that Trim said. Sometimes you need people outside to see the things that are obvious that you're missing.
Hmm.
So when I did that exercise, that was the most defining exercise of my life. One of the
Wow.
most. I got that, and I noticed that in everybody's perception of me, there was one thing that was the same. One thing. Everybody said, you restore,
Hmm.
you courage, you pour out life. Every time I feel I'm down, you are the person who brings me back up. So I said,
Hmm.
a restorer. Really?
Restore.
What does that look like?
Restore.
And that was where it started. I started doing courses. I would go to this. I was like a maniac, hungry for information, learning. I would watch YouTube videos, go to training programs. I was everywhere. I was in all Zoom calls in the pandemic. All Zoom calls I was on them. Learn what is purpose?
Hmm.
What does it mean? What literally I started from the beginning. What is purpose? How do I step in my identity? What is this? And I started learning and that was how I started to find myself. So I wish it was an easy thing. Like, how did you find yourself? Oh, I just knew, and it just, but literally
It's a
process.
journey. It's a journey, but you were hungry to find yourself.
Hungry.
That's the beginning. I believe that is the beginning of the warrior woman, right? Like you have to know yourself. Because if you do not know, I said every woman has an inner warrior. It's up to her to bring it out.
Mhm,
How do you begin to bring out that warrior? You have to understand who you are. And you
mhm,
can't understand who you are if you aren't intentional about finding yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you were called to do, understanding the power and the gifts that you naturally possess, right? So you went through a feedback cycle, which I'm like, I'm gonna go through a feedback. I'm gonna go through a feedback cycle. That's so powerful. And now this restore, I love the word restore. And now you're restoring women. How did it go to women? I'm thinking back. Was it your mother that you thought about, or like how did restoration of humans really become restoration of women?
That is such a good question. That is such a good question. I can't even tell you that I can pinpoint the exact time that I knew that my message was specifically for women. I don't know. I just feel that it had always been. I don't know. It's just something that I can't tell you that at this point I now knew it was for women. But I know that every time I would close my eyes, the people who I saw myself helping were women.
Hmm.
So I never really saw men. I don't know why.
Unfortunately,
I'm so
just didn't work
sorry,
out
man.
that way. It's okay, right?
No
We
shade.
love
You
you.
get
We
people
still
to
love
help
you.
you.
We still
But
love you.
yes, so it was, I just started, and I think every time I would see, and I think there was also something around the people who would naturally gravitate towards me as well. Somehow it felt like I just had something. There was almost like what's that thing? The radar beacon thing in the homing device in my head. I was just going boom, 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 boom. I'm here to help, and those would be women just naturally gravitating to me. So I just remember from really early on, I'd always use like women in my, you know, promotional materials or everything. You know, initially I just left it, but after a while. I left it and I was serving women, but then after a while, I thought, you know what, I will actually put it. So on my Instagram bio, it's actually there. I help women find relevance.
Mm.
You know, that's what I do.
I love it. I love it. And you recently, Powerhouse You, and I remember you put your book out last year and you decided to move forward with this amazing course. I want you to talk about why this it's the voyage. Tell me about the course and why you chose to follow your heart, follow
Mm,
that understanding of I need to put this out into the world.
okay, sure. So the course is called the Voyage to Growth Accountability Program. So it's VGAP for short. VGAP, that's what everyone
Yeah.
calls it. The people in the community are called VGAPers. And I can still remember the exact day the course dropped in my spirit, like literally the exact day, the exact time. It was in December of 2020. So I started my journey just to put in context. My the company announced the letting go of the contractors about probably the April thereabouts.
Okay.
So from about June, April, May. So from about May, I was I started finding myself. I started having these conversations. And then what happened was for the very first time, I decided to get a coach. This is another thing that was a bit weird because it didn't make sense. Um, I wasn't from that world where people would go for coaches, but
Yeah.
I just knew that I needed something that what I knew could not cater to. I had to go outside of what I would consider normal
Yeah.
to help with that thing. I just knew. So I was on a podcast like this. I was listening to on my friend's podcast. I was listening to her interview somebody else, somebody who was a coach, and I said, I just heard, and this is the thing, you have to, you have to be discerning and go in the direction of the people who make your baby leap. I don't know what
Mm.
she was talking about. I don't know. I don't still remember. But literally, I contacted her and I was like, I feel like I need a coach. I don't know what a coach does, but I feel like there is something more that I need to birth. And
Yeah.
I got into this conversation with her and she says to me, tell me your story. And that was where this whole thing happened. And she helped me, you know, whatever. But anyway, fast forward to about December of that year. I said, look, I feel like, you know, I need to I need to put out some sort of curriculum. And I was like, my friend was like, oh, what are you going to teach about? What is it going to be? Da, 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 da. And I was like, I'm not really sure. Da, da, da. And before you know it, I remember where I was. I got out a notebook and I started writing frantically. And it was just, the only way I can explain it is that it was just like a supernatural download.
Mm.
And I just started seeing this system because it's not just a course, it's a system. I started
Mm.
seeing the system of how women could operate at a different level, a whole system of carrying them from breaking the things and limitations that hold them back and pulling out all the what I call anchors that are
Mm.
holding them, coupling them from these anchors to finding themselves, then finding themselves and understanding their identity to identifying where they want to go, then from that to trying to identify the things that are holding them. So there was a whole thing, and I wrote down this whole system, how it will work. I talked about, I then had this vision, and God showed me this whole, you need to have execution cycles, because one of the things that kills people, we are in this whole, particularly with the pandemic, this whole knowledge industry, we have what I call knowledge constipation.
Mm.
We know we
Ooh.
assume, yes, people assume that if you know what to do, you will do it, but it
Yep.
doesn't always work that
Yep.
way.
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. And we
Execution.
whole proliferation now of information. It's information overload. We have courses are coming out of our ears, but you still have people who are not getting transformation
Mm,
because one, they just keep buying everything and they do nothing in return. And
mhm.
no one is making sure that people do stuff. So go on.
So, no, because I always say applied information changes situations. And it's one thing to have information, right? And I used to be a teacher. How do you do this thing? I remember one day I was teaching reading main idea, and all the teachers, oh, main idea is what the text is mostly about. That doesn't mean anything to someone who doesn't know how to find what the text is mostly about. So how do you take that definition or that piece of information and turn it into a process so I can then apply that and
Mhm.
then get what my desired outcome is. So
Yeah.
that is so important. You're taking women and saying, hey, it's one thing to have information, but I'm actually showing you how to execute. Here are
Yes.
the steps that you must follow. Put your left foot out first, then turn
Yes.
right, then turn left. Like that is what is completely missing. People don't know how
Yes.
to execute. You're absolutely right.
People have no clue. People have no clue. And I think that has been that for me has been a singular, like, complete game changer piece on the Void to Growth accountability program, because you come on tentative, lacking clarity about yourself, full of self-doubt, not even sure that there's even anything in your life worth
Mm,
pursuing. I have so many people, housewives, people who are even accomplished in careers, who feel that same way that I felt, which is misaligned, who come
mm,
on, it's like, I'm not sure there's anything I can do. And coming on, going through this whole very rich curriculum that just is so transformative, having the workbooks, and there's a way the system is, that the knowledge is embedded, that is quite unique to the program, and then coming out at the other side and then having this whole execution cycle. And it's very, rigorous, and not even rigorous in the sense, it's thorough. I won't use rigorous, it's just thorough, because it's like this whole no woman is left behind principle. It's, you are in this whole accountability bubble that is very catalytic, so everyone's doing, so you kind of feel like, okay, I have to do as well. So it really propels you. It's like
mm,
you're in the slipstream of someone going really fast, and you just
mm,
kind of follow. That's what it
mm.
does. So a lot of people come, I'm not really sure, to look what I launched. So you come out of the program with something. So,
That's
and
so, so powerful.
it evidences that you are a doer. That's the thing with the program. And that's what God was telling me, was teaching me. It's like, you have to start to show people that despite what they believe about themselves, there is a version of them that I see, that,
Ooh,
are so is so rich with potential, and they can do. So you have to show them that, look, if you can do this, you can do that too. If you can do this, you can do that. So you start by doing the one, and then, oh my gosh. So it's this whole lifelong thing. You come onto the program, and what people who have experienced it, they actually call it a culture. So we have
mm,
a system of speaking, the lingos, things that we say that people don't understand. So it's a whole culture, movement, way of thinking, way of living, that is so different and unique, that helps you really feel empowered. Like, okay, I bought into something that is true and is real.
mm. I always say, when you leave this earth, you cannot take anything with you. And we're all going to leave this earth. We don't talk about it, but we all will die, right? And we
Mhm,
never know what our time is. The only thing that you can do is leave something here. So
mhm,
that spirit of doing, I want to do more. I want to do more. How can I help people? How can I use my gifts and my talents? So I think when I think about change, it's you're leading change, but you're not just leading change. You're not just changing something or changing an outcome. You're leading a movement of women becoming doers. and really leaving a legacy. That's how I see it in my brain. Like, you're
It's exciting.
teaching women how to leave a legacy on this earth. That's
Mhm,
all you can do. Nothing else matters. What did you do for people while you were here? But
mhm,
do is the key word, right? So you have to do something,
mhm,
and do something that comes from within, that's in you, that you were created for. It's so
mm.
so powerful. I just really I love what you are doing with
Yeah.
women. And I think about just I don't know. I just look at you as a change agent. I don't know if you look at yourself in the same way, but
Mm,
a serious change agent. You know, it's not light. It's not like what you were doing. But one thing that for me that I like for people to talk about is really overcoming the imposter syndrome, the doubt, the self doubt. Like, talk to me more about that, because there's so many women listening right now who will be listening in the future who will come across this maybe when we're gone, girl.
mm.
But how do we begin to overcome imposter syndrome so we can lead the movement that we were designed to lead?
Oh
How
gosh.
do you do
You know
that?
when you say the story, when you say when I just give the story, it seems easy, like, oh, I got the download, the spiritual download, and I created the course. So straightforward, Nancy. No.
No, it's not like
Oh
that.
gosh, I was petrified.
Mm,
I just first of all, I thought it was like there is no way because of how extensive it was and how when I got it, I could see the end in my mind. And I thought, surely, God,
I can see
this
the
cannot
end.
be me. Like, surely there are more qualified people to do this.
Mm,
There are
mm.
more Bible bashing, spiritual
Right,
warriors,
like, right,
whatever.
me?
I, I'm just a chilled out girl. I'm talking
Really,
about
me?
not long ago.
Right, right.
I don't know. And I didn't understand what I was walking into. So what God did was I just had this unrest on the inside of me.
Mm,
This thing that I saw would not leave me. It would not leave me. I thought, okay, maybe, just maybe, if I do other things,
if I just ignore it for some time.
if I ignore it, I don't, it would not leave me
Mm,
in my head, playing every day. It was just like this thing on repeat. Some days I will cry.
mm,
Literally, I would have tears coming down my eyes because I kept seeing this vision, this whole architecture in my head. And so you must understand that I have never seen it before.
mm.
It's different when you're trying to create something you have seen before.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah, possibly.
It's a lot easier when you've seen it.
Never seen this before. I've never seen a system that works like this for anyone, women, men, whatever. But I was trying to create this thing, and the thing would not leave me. I would oscillate between moments of, oh yes, it's definitely a thing. Oh gosh, I see it. It's so beautiful. Like women will definitely. The minute I open the doors, everyone's just gonna flood through. To jump to moments of it is absolutely rubbish. No
Mm,
one will use it. It makes no sense, and
mm,
I am wasting my time.
mm,
And that was how I went. Days like this, days like this, days
mm.
like this, but with every single thing, I was inching forwards. I was falling this way rather than just being like this. And this is the secret, right? When you are not sure, keep moving. Don't
Mm.
use being unsure as an excuse to stay still because that is a lie of the devil.
Yeah.
If you have a vision and God has given you a vision for something, believe, hold on to what God has said and move with what you have seen, even if you don't understand it, even if you don't
Ooh,
see a way for it to happen, even if it doesn't make complete sense. As long as you have that validation that this is what you're meant to be doing, just keep going. So that was me. I wish I could tell you that like I was just moving with complete surety. No, it was
Absolutely not. It
very
never works that way.
I
It,
every day, one day I'm sure, the other day I'm unsure. One day, but I remember what I knew was that this thing had possessed me.
hmm.
I felt possessed. So I will, I was showing you earlier, I wrote it down on my wall. It's still on my wall. So every single day I bought the sticky notes and
Can we
stuff.
see your
Not
wall?
yeah, you can see my wall.
Can we see the wall? This is where the magic was happening.
So the magic was
Wow.
happening. I would sketch
Wow.
every time I get an idea. I would write more on it. In fact, it was big if I cleaned some because I tried to put it in a bit of order. I would just keep writing. I said, "This is module one, and this is how it connects to this. This is what they
Hmm.
need." I just kept writing what I saw. And one day, I remember one day, the day I started crying was when I heard God say to me that it is a life architecture system. I said, "What is a life architecture system? Why
You
do
made
you
it up.
have architect? Like, I've never heard. Are you just playing around with
Wow.
me?" So I wrote it on my wall, life architecture system. So I would cry, I'd call my friends. Thankfully, my best friend, God bless her soul. God bless her soul.
Mm.
Honestly, you need people in your corner who will just be there
Absolutely.
for you.
Absolutely.
Ah, every time she believed in it more than I believed.
Hmm.
So every time my belief would wane, she would push me back up. She would
That's
say,
beautiful.
don't worry, just keep going. Are you sure? Are you sure? Yeah, go. And I'll walk and I'll be sure. And then I start being scared again. I look back. She said, no, keep going, keep going. And that was how I went completely unsure. I
Hmm.
went, the first time I started getting a glimpse that I had something real, I said, okay, I was going to do a launch. And I said, okay. And I just got this lead in to reach out to, one of the top coaches in Nigeria, coaches, ministers. I'd mentioned her name, Didike. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
I said to her, I want to do have a session with you. She said, okay, sure. And she came on. She never really does one-to-one session, but I said, I just have a lead in. And I begged her, I said, please, I just need, please. And she knows people that I know. She said, she had to come. And she said, what are you here for? And I said, I think I have something, but I'm not sure. She's
Right. Can you let me know if it's real? I just
Yeah,
want to know if it's
real
real.
is real. And that was me then putting it in front of her, and then she looks at it and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you have something very real, very, very. This is exactly what people need." And that validation helped me. But that was not all. Every time I feel like I've arrived in my confidence, I will fall back again.
Mm.
It is a dance.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's a dance because for every vision that you have, I'm telling you, we only see in parts. So, and the Bible talks about the path of the just getting brighter and brighter. There will be a part of that vision that will be revealed to you that the confidence that you have still needs to come up to
Yeah.
carry that
Yeah.
new path.
Yeah.
Even
It's a
as I've
process.
done this, it's a process. And we shouldn't shrivel away, we shouldn't hide when we feel like we feel overcome by this, when we feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Don't run away. Just stand. Just
Mm.
stand. And a lot of this also was birthed in prayer as well. I prayed. I prayed. And I love to say like I prayed because I wanted to pray, but at some point I was praying because I feel like I was in labor. Like
Mm.
if I didn't pray, I I it would be a stillbirth.
Mm. A stillbirth. That's just such a powerful metaphor. How many people are going to the grave with a stillbirth? They haven't fully birthed what they were designed for. They haven't fully birthed the vision, and you were committed to not having a stillbirth. That is so, so, so powerful. So
I really,
powerful.
I really felt like if I didn't do it, I would literally, I felt like I would die if I didn't do it.
Hmm.
I didn't like whatever it was. I just knew that it didn't make sense. My husband didn't get it. Why do you say you're not going back to work again? Why are you not? What are you? What are
I
you
don't
doing?
understand.
What are you always doing in the room? I'm working on something, honey. Like,
Huh.
and the thing is, not everyone's going to understand. So don't feel like you have to explain everything. Some people will only need like a sentence. You give them that. Some people need a little bit more. You give them that. But don't feel like everybody needs to be bought into every facet of your vision. It will
Mm,
never work.
mm.
Some people will never get it. They will never get it. The vision was not for them. They don't see what you see. They will never get it. It will never make sense. Stop trying to convince them. That's not your job. That's not your job. Just do what you're doing. Results speak. Just let your results speak.
And I want to talk about the patience that you had, the preparation that you gave, because you said 2020, you got the vision. 2022, VGAP is here.
Yes.
So it was a 2-year process of
Yes.
trusting your intuition,
Yes.
trusting
Doing
yourself,
that dance.
finding yourself, right?
Finding
Dancing back and
myself.
forth. And I don't even know if the dancing ever stops, it's because there's new heights. So it brings about new doubt. And you're like, wait, but I was just comfortable here. So can I really do it? So the dancing never stops. But so you've danced for 2 years.
Yes.
You were intentional for 2 years. You prepared for 2 years.
For two
And that's
years.
what I don't want people to forget, right? Like you didn't necessarily say preparation, but in all of what
It
you've been
was. It
saying,
was preparation.
there was
Every
a
single one was in.
intentional preparation
Mhm.
that was happening for you to be here, to be able to transform women's lives, to build
Yes.
a movement. You've created a movement, the architect,
The life architecture.
the life
Like,
architect.
I don't even know what it is. Even till now, I still don't get it. But it will make sense later because that's what
Doesn't
I
have to
heard.
make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. You're just
And
trusting
just,
it.
I trust. I just trust. But I think going back to the question you were asking, you know what? There was a process between when David was anointed king, as a successor for Saul,
That
and
is
when
very
he
true. That
and
is
when he
very true.
actually
Became.
became king. And in between that, it was him growing. It was him proving himself, having opportunities where Saul was trying to kill him and he would be in close contact with Saul, but he would not touch the anointed of God. It was him growing discipline. It was him becoming the person who could be king over
Whew.
Israel.
I just had a thought. What happens when a baby in a womb is exposed too soon? There's
Mm.
a process here. Like actually, you're protected in the womb and you're developing for an entire year. That's what it feels like. 9 months, 10 months, right? Just developing, 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 getting stronger, getting ready, right? And at the due time, the birth happens. And that's where I feel
Mhm.
like your 2 year your journey, your 2 year journey, if it was exposed too soon, it wouldn't have been what it
It, wou-
is.
it wouldn't have been what it was. I wasn't ready. There was no chance.
Mm,
And I
mm.
say this categorically. There was
Whew.
no chance I could have birthed VGAP before I did. No
Wow.
chance. Because I
Wow.
wasn't the person who could do it.
Yeah.
I
You had to
wasn't, I
develop.
had not yet become the person who could carry that vision. My
Hmm.
body was not ready. My heart was not ready. My mind was not ready. So there was a process where I went into where it was now me actually pushing this baby. When I got to the point of actually pushing this baby out, and it's the same for women, right? When you get to the point of pushing the baby out, your body has matured enough.
Hmm.
Your organs, your body has matured enough. The glands are all, everything's ready. So when this baby comes, you are the person who can nurture the baby and you can do everything that you know needs to be done. And that was the exact same thing for me. Before I ran the program, I had all this entire thing was a skeletal system. like this whole system of how this connects here, and just very intricate, like this is how this works and all of that. But I didn't really know what the content should be, because I kind of felt surely there's no way I can do an end-to-end transformational program for women and fill in the content myself. Like I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on, like God, seriously.
Huh.
And the first person who told me that I could do it was DDK. And I said, do I need to get people to come and do this? And she said, she smiled and she said, you'll do everything. I said, it's
Wow.
impossible. Like I said, how? I have no expertise in all these things. What are you telling me about? Like identity, I teach this, I teach that. I don't know productivity. What are you talking anti-fragile? Like I was like, I can't teach. There's parts of it where I'm talking about neuroplasticity. I was like, I don't know all these things.
When
And she said, well, you will know it. You'll be ready at the time.
it's time.
And that was exactly how
Wow.
I was creating the modules as the first people that enrolled. Module one was meant to be taught on a Saturday. Maybe this was the Saturday before. I will create the content of it that week. And it was like manna falling from heaven. That's what I did. I would just go to God and say, like, God, I didn't send myself. And it was it was manna falling from heaven. I
Yeah.
would I would hear
I've
I would
experienced
hear,
that.
go and look at this, Google this, check this. That I would hear that, and I will go and I will Google words that I had never seen, never anything before. And that was how I was getting the information, and I was creating it, and I was
Download.
the
Wow.
downloads. So I
Just
think I say all of this not to sound really cryptic or anything, but it's really to say that you don't have to have everything. You don't have to know everything. You don't. All you need is to catch the vision. When you catch the vision, that's why God is so sick. Write the vision, make it plain. If you think about the steps, my own journey was I got that vision and I made it plain. It was plain on my wall for me to see every single day.
Ooh,
So
you did. You did. You did. It's
and
still there.
it's still there. And every single day I saw it, and every single day it possessed me. The more I saw it, the more it possessed me. The more I saw
Yeah.
it, the more it possessed me, until I became the person who could deliver it.
Yeah. So, Tonbra, we're coming to an end, and I want to know, what would your final words be to the woman who has yet to release her inner warrior? What are
Mm.
your words for her?
Ah. Mm. The world is waiting for you.
Mm.
The world is waiting for you. And what you have to understand is that there is a cost to you not rising up in time.
Mm.
When I talk about the whole world being, I talk about VGAP being a system, but what it is and what the vision that God showed me, is this entire world is a system.
Mm.
Is a system that operates of interrelated entities. That's why you have the sun, it's rotating at specific times. The moon comes out at specific time. The flowers are putting out carbon dioxide, oxygen, and then we are taking it in so that we can breathe the carbon monoxide for it to take. So if you see what I mean, it's an entire system, a beautiful tapestry that God has created where everything talks to everything, and you are part of the system.
Mm.
So there is someone who is waiting for what you are going to release. There is an intake that is meant to come in to you so that you can release something to somebody else. And when you are missing, the system doesn't work
Mm.
cohesively as a whole.
Mm. Mm.
So think about it. Think about the cost, not just to yourself, but to the world. to the God of the universe that created this entire system and has plugged you in. When you are not functioning, it disturbs, it messes up the whole.
Huh.
I know it feels scary. I know
It's
you feel
powerful.
confused. I know you feel like you may have nothing to give, but hear me and hear me loud and clear. You have every single thing that you need to contribute your quota to this system. It's
Mm.
inside you, it's hard coded, it is wired. You are enough. You
Yes.
are even more than enough.
Yes.
All you need to do is believe my words. Believe my words. Don't listen to your own. Believe my words. You are enough. So when you listen to this podcast, say a prayer. Say, God, I have heard what Tonbra has said, and I'm ready to enter into the fullness of who you have created me to be.
Mm.
And
Absolutely.
watch what happens.
Mm. Such powerful words. Thank you. Ah, Tonbra, you're such a powerhouse. I just thank you for being obedient, for putting the vision first, for understanding your place in the system,
Mm.
and all of the people that were waiting on you to get started. And you said yes, you chose yes. And now you're building an entire movement of change, of restoration. It is so powerful. I can hear the passion. I see it. I've seen the growth in just a year. I met you last
Mm.
in 2023. I met you last year, and I just see it, and I'm so proud of you. I'm
Thank
so proud of you. You are my sister. I love you.
you. I
Thank
love
you
you.
for just being you. I truly appreciate you, and I honor you. And
Thank
God
you.
will continue to use you to do
Mm.
amazing things all
Thank you.
across the world, all across the world. So thank you so much for just being my guest, being here, being present, saying yes to my vision so people can say yes to theirs, and
Mm.
just continue to just spread this message of just stepping into your full entire power. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Absolutely love you, love you, love you.
Thank you. Love you too. It's been such a great session.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much
thank
for
you.
having
How can people keep in touch with you? For those, I'm gonna definitely add the tag, so I just want you to say it here
me.
loud
Yes.
and clear for everyone.
Definitely, definitely. So it's Tonbra.Nwosuagwu, Nwosuagwu on Instagram. I'm on Tonbra.com. That's my website. I am on Created for More, FORE More, the podcast. And yeah, I'm just your girl. If you're interested in learning about VGAP, it's tonbra.com/VGAP. That's VGAP, VGAP.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's it.
Yeah, well, I look forward to all the women that are going to hear you, and all of the women that are going to be joining VGAP, and all of the transformation that is waiting to happen this year, 2023. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It was an
Okay.
absolute pleasure having you
Same,
today. Thank
same here.
you.